and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. I'm joined by Kris, Ray, and Shaun. How are y'all doing?
Peachy.
We're better than Jen.
Yeah, Jen might be joining us. We'll see. We're not holding up high hopes for that. If she does, great. If not, it is what it is.
We'll
So
get her next time.
yeah, computers and Jen just don't
Yeah,
really seem to mix.
I think it's Shaun that's fucking with her file, like Magic 2.0, right? Like, I think that's.
She's a safe enough distance that if she does figure it out, she can't get me.
Oh, that's true too. So, tonight's episode we are reading "A Darker Shade of Magic" by V.E. Schwab. This was Kris's pick.
Yep.
Kris, why did you recommend this book to us?
I read a book by V.E. Schwab before. It's called the Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I've talked about it before. And then I had to go down the wormhole of what else has she written, and she's got a pretty decent catalog. So when I was at the bookstore, I was like, "What's this?" Picked it up. I like magic and different magic systems and stuff, so it seemed interesting. And yeah.
All right. What you did not know is that is the first book in a series when you first recommended it.
Did know that.
She knew.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did, but I wanted to make sure it was a complete series. So it wasn't one of those things that if one of us decided to read on further, that they'd be like waiting.
Oh, okay.
So as far as I know, it's a complete trilogy.
How many books?
There's just three.
Just three.
Just three.
Okay, that may change my answer to one of the questions then. So, so anyway, let's go ahead and start with our initial thoughts. We're going to start with you, Kris. What were your initial thoughts?
I liked it. It was bit of a info dump at the beginning. It took me a minute to be like, this is a lot happening to me. But I liked it. I thought it was an interesting world she built, and I liked it.
Ray, thoughts?
We'll get in on the whole narrator thing at one point.
I read it. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I listened to it. It grew on me. I will say that. Yeah, it grew on me. It took a little bit for me to get into, but it grew on me. And in the end, I'm intrigued, and I'll listen to more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just going to jump in because I'm kind of echoing your sentiment there. It grew on me as well. At first, I was like, "Oh, this is okay." It definitely wasn't one of those that's like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish this one. It was okay going through, and then things start to happen. I'm just like, "Oh, okay, well, this is interesting. Let's see how this goes." But yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I think I might continue. I probably would at least read the next book in the series." But now that I know there's only three, I'm thinking, okay, I'll probably definitely give the second one a shot and see if I'm going to finish it up. So, what about you, Shaun?
It was meh. I I thought this was like a young adult. Like, I had it kind of figured out like right away. Like, it was really okay. Well, there's no surprise here. There's no surprise there. And I think I've been spoiled by the Marvel's multiverse because the whole time I'm thinking, why the fuck are there only 4 worlds? Like, oh, yeah, there's 4 separate worlds. I'm like, well, with the multiverse theory, there should be a lot more than that. And
Yeah.
it was like, and that was always in the back of my head of the stupidest things. I'm like, yeah, why are there only 4 Londons? And yeah, it seemed a bit predictable and stuff like that. Actually, the highlight for me was actually the narration. I liked Stephen Crossley.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the female voices, but I've heard him narrate other stuff. I'm drawing a blank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ray's got this stupid ass face going right now. It's Jen.
There's Jen.
Oh, I roll.
That's not a happy face though.
Yeah. I am not having a great life.
Do you want to give us your initial thoughts on the book?
Yeah, I liked it. I killed myself to read it in time for the show, and then I couldn't join the show because, you know, like my computer decided to break. But I liked it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's go ahead and kind of get started. So, favorite part of the book, right? Kris, we'll just kind of keep going in the same order.
Delilah.
Okay.
Liked her. I thought she was. I liked her. I thought she was fun. Um, that and I liked. I don't know. I guess unlike Shaun, I don't have a multiverse thing going on. So I like for me for the amount of information I had to remember and because I was reading it and I read it before bed. 4 Londons was enough. I didn't need to know about it anymore. But yeah, Delilah was my favorite by far out of everything.
Okay. Right.
For me, I think it was kind of a combination of the magic that they're using and that um, the interesting idea of where this, like how close they are to the source is how powerful they are. I thought that was kind of interesting as to how much magic there was in the world. Um, and then the other part with the magic that I appreciated as well was there was different smells associated with it. I thought it was kind of an interesting tweak as well, where certain people smelled a different way based on which London they came from and what magic they used. So yeah, that was interesting.
I'm with you. I liked the magic theory, I guess to say the way they set up magic, how it works. Um, the fact that even in the world where it's pretty dominant, it's pretty useful. It's still not like everyone can use it. It's still limited to certain people. Um, Unlike Shaun, I kind of liked, and like what you said, Kris, I kind of like the fact that it's limited to just four. And who knows, maybe has anyone read the other two books?
Yeah.
No, but I
Okay,
want.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get to Black London and find out that there's even more beyond that. For some reason or another, when they blocked off Black London, that's what blocked off the access to everything else. I really wouldn't be surprised about that. Um, but having kind of specific, this one is this way, this one is this way, um, and seeing how, and I like how she talks about whenever she comes over. At one point, she's like, it's funny because you talk about this world as it seemed normal to me where there's not hardly any magic, and I come to a world where there is magic and everything's brighter and more colorful and stuff. And I liked seeing how that was part of not only a way to tell that this is a more abundant, magically abundant universe, but also that it's more vivid, it's more interesting. So, but yeah, I enjoyed the magic system, I guess to say, in this one. Shaun?
I like Tell's jacket.
Yeah, that was cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
Oh, what a
Yeah.
fun, right? I like that. Yeah, like there's one jacket he can't find again because he just keeps.
Yeah. Yeah, and they don't even say that until later on in the book too. Like he had like the standard set, and then he's actually talking to Delilah. It's like, yeah, I found one jacket, and I can't find it again. Kind of. That was pretty cool.
That
Yeah.
was cool. Jen, favorite part of the book?
I just liked I don't know, the unique way they imagined magic, and in a lot of different universes you hear about magic in a lot of different ways, and this was just kind of different from all those. And not crazy about the fact that they had to use blood on everything every time they wanted to travel or do anything, but like the idea of parallel universes accessed by specific people with abilities is kind of cool.
Least favorite part.
Blood.
I did not like the siblings. I hated them. Hated them. Did not enjoy that. When I first read his oh my god, I can't remember his name now. The brother. When I was reading from his
Right?
Right, yeah.
no,
Oh.
the rulers of White London. When I first was reading
Oh,
about
Astrid and
Astrid, and it starts with an A, and I can't remember it right now. Anyway, I did not like that. I'm like, oh, I don't want to read about a creepy character. No, thank you. Yeah, I that was pretty much the only thing I didn't I didn't like about it was
Athos.
Athos. Thank you. Yeah, it was the siblings. I didn't like them. I thought they were creepy. I didn't like that. Yeah, Astrid really creeped me out.
Ray?
I'll get to my least favorite part when we talk about the narration. But for the actual story itself, I think for me it's they introduced some really interesting characters that I wanted to get to know better, and then they would kill them off pretty quickly.
Oh yeah. Oh, I changed my mind. That one.
There's two characters that I was like, oh fuck, this I like. Okay, yeah, I could learn more. And then
the innkeeper, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then the shopkeeper.
And then the shopkeeper. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Those two, there was such an. I was like, okay, I could follow along, and then they just killed them.
Yeah. Kind of the same thing. Like, there wasn't anything really that stood out that I just really didn't, I disliked in the book. I mean, yeah, I'm like you. I think I would have liked to get to know those characters a little bit more. But other than that, like, there wasn't anything that was just like sternly like, no, I didn't care for this. Like, whether it be like you said, the narration or a specific character or whatever. I was just like, yeah, the twins are creepy, but I'm just like, okay, they're obviously going to be the bad guys. So it is what it is. So, Shaun.
Like I said, the four Londons. Why just four Londons? The other thing, and I don't think they really explained, was like, why are they even keeping contact? Like, why are the Londons keeping contact with each other? Like, when you think about it, it's a pretty big plot hole.
Yeah.
Like, they never explain it. It's like, yeah, so you're sending letters back and forth to what end? Like,
I guess it's just kind of a thing to do.
If you're gonna seal off the London, well, seal it off. Why? But they never get into that.
I always just assumed it was a way of ensuring that there was still peace and no like it was a way of communicating so that there wasn't going to be one trying to take over the other or anything like that. That's the way I took it. Like it was,
which worked out really well.
Yeah, like it's
great. Yeah.
No, it didn't make any sense, and like that's the central character is like doing something that, well, why? And that right off the bat, that kind of bothered me because they never did explain it. I was like, oh, great, fine. So yeah, that was something I didn't like.
Jen?
Yeah, I thought that was strange too, and like the fact that there was only two people in all of those Londons that could do the traveling, and one of the Londons wasn't even accessible. Yeah, and then my thing was just like the blood magic. I'm not really big on that kind of stuff when you gotta, bring all that into it. And ethically, I mean, I don't have a problem with blood per se. It's just like using a body part to make magic makes me uncomfortable. Fine with magic. Fine with magic otherwise.
Any particular scene that stuck out?
When I thought it was cute when they were ready to use the black stone for the first time, and Delilah just kind of reached up and kissed him really quick, and he's just kind of looking at her like, what the hell was that for? And she's like, fuck. I thought that was cute. And just her, I liked the shopkeeper where she got her costume from. I would really like to go to Red London. I think that would be fun. It all centers around Delilah. I really, really liked her. Yeah, all of her stuff.
Great.
A couple of fight scenes were kind of interesting to listen to. I think that's what I didn't mind those fight scenes. Usually, when it's magic in a book, it's like I've always worried about how the fight scenes are going to sound. These ones I didn't mind, and I think the other one was the one that really stuck out to me was the innkeeper listening out and hearing somebody in her room and going up and shooting the guy. Like that whole scene was like, fuck, I know what's coming. Like
it's I liked the fight scenes actually. That was kind of the things that stuck out the most. The wizard duels essentially, especially the one between him and the other one that can go in between worlds. Holland. I liked that fight scene. because there was a portion and I was like, surely he's gonna win, but getting a little questionable here. Like he better pull something out here pretty quick if he's gonna end up making this happen. So unless something else stepped in and took care of it or whatever. But no, I enjoyed the fight scenes in it. But yeah, those were the kind of things that stuck out the most for me. So Sean.
Uh, well, yeah, I probably agree with the fight scene seemed pretty good. I also liked when he like his room of curiosities and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Like what describing that was pretty cool, and like how the music box worked and stuff like that. That kind of stood out for me.
You just reminded me of something else too. The little thing that they introduced, the little box that they introduced with all the different elements.
Mm.
The little toy.
Oh, the test.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a pretty cool thing.
I had a hard time visualizing that one, though.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that one.
I'll make one for you.
Jen, any
Thanks.
scenes in particular that stick out?
Other than what you guys mentioned, just kind of the way he described the other worlds were interesting, to hear how they all had their own color and kind of eeriness to them.
All right. So the next question I have down here is, well, we're going to skip the one about writing. We'll come back to that in a second. Do you think you would read another book? And some of us have already kind of mentioned. Kris said there's only 3 in the series. I was leaning towards, yeah, I would probably read another one in the series, but knowing there's only 3, as long as I enjoyed the second one, I can definitely see myself finishing off the series. I mean, 3 books, that's after you've done X-Force, that's nothing. Like that's So, what are you thinking, Kris? You gonna continue on to the next one?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna get all 3 physical copies, and she's probably gonna Jen sideways.
Am I?
Yeah, you are.
V.E. Schwab's probably one of those authors where she's an automatic buy for me. I'll probably just buy whatever she's written a bunch of books already, so yeah, I'll probably just keep on with her. I like her writing style.
Good deal. Ray?
Yeah, I'll continue on with this series for now, and we'll see. I know the next one's bigger on her story, Delilah's story. So we'll see how that one goes, and then I'll probably finish it off just because I got to finish the story.
All right, Shaun?
Oh, nay, none. I'm tapping out. Done.
Fair enough.
And like you guys, like I hated Delilah. I hated everything she was. Anytime they brought her up, I was like, no, she's driving me nuts.
I have a feeling I know why, but that's okay. The narrator for me, but anyway, I'll talk about that.
John doesn't like women.
Oh,
Succeeding at things.
I just I happen to like women a lot. So, but
Succeeding at things.
This I did not like the way Delilah was written. So yeah,
Jen?
I'm done.
Oh, Jen?
Yeah, I want to finish the series, but I'm not in a rush to I got to read it right this minute. So I'll probably get back to it once I've read a couple other things on my list.
Well, then let's swing back around to the writing. Shaun, what did you think about the writing?
Well, like I said, like it almost felt like a young adult book to me. Like it just seemed simple. Some of the stuff was like hitting the nail on the head pretty obviously. Like she's missing an eye. Come on. Like how is that not going to be played out in the future? Like that stuff like that kind of annoyed the crap out of me. So I'm like, I know you're setting yourself up for like later books, but man, that's not subtle. that is so not subtle, and I like subtle things usually.
I'll jump in next. I literally probably 3/4 of the way through this book stopped and was like, when was this written? Because for some reason or another, the writing in it made me think it was a lot older than it is. Not like it was written 100 years or so, whatever. It just, for some reason, I thought, I was like, was this feels like it was written in the 90s, maybe the 80s. And I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the time placement in which it happens. But yeah, for some reason, I just I just had this feeling that it was written much later than it was. And I was like, oh no, this was done in the 20 teens. So yeah, it's not that old. So I think maybe the cover for it also kind of made me think that way. The cover is
It's cool.
very throwback. It's a very throwback type cover, and I think that also kind of lured me into the idea. Oh well, this is a little bit older book, and I mean I still enjoyed it. I thought the writing was okay, but yeah, I just had this feeling that it was much older than it was, and turns out nope, not so much. So well, obviously you said you've pretty much anything she writes you're down with, Kris. I'm assuming you enjoy the writing.
I do. I feel like with what she has, she's a palate cleanser.
Hmm.
I feel like for her, it's not something that you have to, because for me, I want to be entertained, first and foremost. I don't want to have to read between the lines. I'm not going to do nuance. I'm not going to do, no. I want to be entertained, and for me, that's suspending disbelief. I didn't even think about the fucking eye thing. I'm like, oh, that's a cool little thing. And then I kept going. I didn't, because I was entertained by it. So for me, that's my like thing. And for her writing, I feel like it's a palate cleanser where it's not something that it's too heavy or brutal or anything. It's not an extreme form of writing, and it's fun. It's a fun story. It's something that's entertaining, and that's nice after you read a couple of crappy books, and you're like, oh, just pick something that's going to be fun. Yeah.
Ray?
I didn't mind the writing. It was, yeah, it was a decent time. It painted a good story. I will say the beginning seemed a little jumbled. Like there was a lot of intros and
Hmm.
a lot of.
It was an info dump.
It was an info dump,
Yeah.
and it was like, I think there could have been a better way to introduce us to everything. But that's maybe just me. I don't know. It just felt like a lot happening in the first couple of chapters, and I was like trying to figure out what's going on. And then it kind of caught its stride and finished off a little bit stronger than what it started.
Okay. Jen?
It was fine. I mean, yeah, not the best I've read, not the worst, you know.
Palate cleanser.
Did the book impact your mood while you were reading? If so, yes. Or, how so? If it did.
Because I've read some shit where I wanted to throw it across the room. I feel like that's more impactful. Or stuff that when you read the fairy porn, you stay up till 2 a.m. because you're like, oh my god, what is happening? And you keep going. But it was, I don't know, it was easy. I did get creeped out a little bit, and then I got, it was exciting, some of the stuff, but I don't know, not entirely.
Ray? Anything about your mood or?
I would say a couple of times intrigued, or a couple of times I'd kind of have a little bit of a laugh or something like that. But yeah, nothing like big swings.
No.
Like I said, kind of, the first part of the book didn't really super hook me. But nothing was like really turning me off about it. And then once it kind of got going, I got interested and kept going. But yeah, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't like avoiding it. I wasn't dying to jump back into it or whatever. But no, kind of, just so. So, Shaun?
Neither highs nor lows. It was meh.
Meh.
Yeah, a couple times I'm like, come on, this is so obvious. But at that point, it was like, meh.
Jen?
Yeah, about the same. I mean, I wasn't finding myself to where I didn't want to put it down, but there were parts where I looked forward to knowing what happened if I had to like stop early. I'd just be like, oh, I'm kind of interested to get back to it. But yeah, I know what you mean, Kris. Sometimes you're just like, I'm going to stay up till 3 a.m. reading whatever because I have to know where this goes.
Did this book remind you of anything else?
The thing with reading a lot, what I found is that it all starts, you can pinpoint it to another book. You're like, oh, it's just kind of like this, or it's like that.
A lot of tropes.
Yeah, there's tropes. There's a lot of, it's a plug and play kind of thing, which is fine. So I liked the blood magic. was, I've watched a lot of magic shows and read magic books, and so it was different enough. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool take, but I liked it. I thought it was. I can't think of something specific where it was like, this is like this book. Like one of the books that I read, I'm like, this is just Twilight with fairies. Like I can't do that with this book.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. Ray, did it remind you of anything else?
Yeah, I can't pinpoint what. It feels familiar,
Yeah,
but
it feels
not,
familiar. Yeah.
but not enough to be like, oh, it's just a copy of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of echoing what y'all are saying. It didn't. A lot of the things seem like it's like, of course, like you said, the more you read, the more you're exposed to different things. Of course, whether that be reading, watching, listening, whatever. So yeah, it it didn't really do anything bad, but it was just like, okay, so we're gonna take a little we're gonna take this kind of version of magic. We're gonna have some set rules, and we're gonna have, like Shaun said, limited version of a multiverse. And we're gonna put those together and just kind of grabbed a couple of different, like Jen said, tropes that throughout a bunch of different series. And like I said, it didn't do anything bad with them. It didn't. It put them together for the most part in a pretty logical way. I do like how it was. It did clearly set up rules for the most part, and it was like, because it was even like, well, with the stone, it was like, listen, I don't know if this is going to work or not. Like, we're going to give it a shot, but there's a distinct possibility that you're either going to not come through with me, or you're going to end up as a goo. I don't know. So just be ready for that. So, but I did like the fact that it set rules, and it seems to be playing by those rules, fairly well. Sometimes I don't mind whenever I really like it in a book series when they set out the rules and then something changes and maybe that's what alters it. I just hate when books or movies or whatever just completely cast the rules aside, like, completely forgot about it, which is why I have such a big problem with the second and third Matrix movies, because it's like, rules, we don't need those. So here's a fight scene. But anyway, Shaun?
The time frame with the magic kind of vaguely reminded me of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Noel, which I read a long time ago.
Okay.
And then, because it takes place in that kind of Elizabethan kind of time with magic as well. And then kind of the pairing up between the two, that reminded me of like the Pillars of Reality series a little bit, which was a pretty big series, which I like that series. But yeah, like there's similarities between the stories and just the settings a little bit. So
Okay. Jen, did it remind you of anything else?
No, nothing specific. Just I've read a ton of fantasy books over the years, so kind of the same feel as a lot of those indie author fantasy books.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any lingering questions from the book that you're still thinking about, Kris?
What happens to Delilah? And what happens to Kel? And is Holland actually dead? Is there more Londons? What happened to all those people that got possessed by the Black Stone? Did they just literally all turn into dust and they died? And how is Red London going to deal with that? Who's going to take over the Ruby Fields and the pub in Grey London now that Baron's gone, and
Burned down.
it all burned down, and Holland is a jerk. Yeah, I just, I got hooked on these. I want to know. I'm just nosy.
He's very invested in these characters.
Now that I know that there's more, I like
Right?
the time frame of London though. Like it's a very specific. Like I'll watch any movie set in this time frame. I'm reading a book right now that's set in this. Like I just love it. So that's what hooked me when I picked it up and like, ooh, Victorian London. Okay, I don't even care what this is about. I'll just read it.
Fair enough. Ray?
I'm intrigued as to what's going on with Holland because he's obviously still alive.
Because Antarctica hard to kill.
Yeah. And now in Black London, and we know what just one little stone did. So very curious as to what's actually happening to Holland. And then curious as to what the void of the sibling's death is going to do to White London.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I'm very curious about, and I don't know if they'll ever answer it, is, but what is the actual source of magic, and will they explore that a little bit more? Because they say it's separate from the Londons, so is there something there, and is it a place that you can go to, or is it just some like a different? Because he kept describing it as like almost
She.
a person. Oh, sorry, she. It was described. Oh, sorry, I meant Kel. Kel was
okay.
describing it as an individual, as magic was another person that he would converse with. So, is it something else? So, just kind of curious.
Honestly, the biggest thing honestly, the driving force as to why I was going to at least give a second book a shot is, I want to see what Black London's like. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, obviously it was bad enough that the magic took over and ruined everything, and they felt like they had to shut the door on it. So I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of want to see what's past that door. Um, that was honestly the only thing that was really kind of driving me towards everything else. I'm just like, okay, well, yeah, it's fine. If I find out, great. If not, oh well. But yeah, I kind of want to, kind of intrigued, kind of want to see what Black London's going to be like. So, because part of me is like, it sounds like you would. I don't know. Maybe y'all don't. My first thought was like, okay, well, this is gonna be like a war torn London or something. But on the other hand, if the Londons that have more and more magic are more vivid and bright, I'm like, are they going to walk through and it'd be like, wow, this place is like teeming with life and it's super bright and everything, because literally the magic is just like, who knows, maybe it's killed off all the people there and is just essentially grown everything back. So I don't know. But yeah, I was kind of interested to see what that would be like. So, Shaun?
No, I'm good. No,
Jen?
nothing is driving me to.
Nothing's driving. Gotcha.
No.
I mean, other than what everyone's already said, just kind of more of the history between the Londons, because it seems like maybe there's more to the story than just, oh, we sealed this guy off and now we just keep in touch via this weird, delivery service with only two people, now one can do it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was kind of a strange like thing, and why they kept in touch, like Shaun said, all those years.
Yeah. Two more quick questions. Number one, would you recommend the book? Why or why not?
Yeah, I would. I would recommend it to a person who's looking to read more or just starting to get into fantasy. I feel like this is sort of a light fantasy book to kind of, dip your toe into that pond. I would recommend it. And somebody who enjoys like Regency, Victorian London, just a kind of neat take on that. But yeah, I would. Yeah, but it would be person specific though. Like I wouldn't recommend this to my sister because she'd laugh at me and be like, I'm not fucking reading that. So
Nice. Ray?
Only if I knew their taste in books.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to say only until I read the second, possibly the third one, because knowing that it is a finalized series, the last thing I'd want to do would be like, oh yeah, definitely read it, and then go read the second or third one and be like, don't finish it. It sucks. It ruins everything. So
like Divergent.
Yeah.
You will never let that go, honey.
No, I won't.
Shaun, I'm guessing no.
I'd go with Kris and Ray too. Like it would have to be dependent on who I'd recommend it to. I think that like wasn't horrible. I just
This wasn't your cup of tea.
Yeah, it was. But some people may like it. So obviously. So I won't like say, oh, this book is total crap. You're gonna waste your time on it. No, people might like it. I just that quick and easy read. I would say.
Jen?
Ditto what everyone said.
Okay.
If a person's into that stuff, then yeah, go for it.
And then the final question was, did you enjoy the narrator? We're going to start with Ray on this one.
The reason why you think you've heard his voices before, it was bothering the fuck out of me. Kris nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
I was listening to somebody tell me a Thomas the Train fucking story the whole time. That's what it sounds like to me. I can't fucking stand it. Oh, just annoyed the shit out of me. I couldn't, and he couldn't do a female's voice to save his life.
No, I couldn't.
Which is fine, but it's just annoying. And then Kel for me sounded like David Tennant. It sounded like I was listening to a Doctor Who episode
Being narrated by
David Tennant for a little bit, but it would take me out of Kel so much that is it the Doctor? I'm like, no. And so it just, it really messed me up. And again, it sounded like Thomas the Train as an adult, and I'm like, no, this is fucking wrong.
That's because I said, I'm like, I feel like I'm listening to an episode of Thomas the Tank Engine. He's like, that's what it is.
If y'all may have just ruined the second and third book for me, because if that's stuck in my head now, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, so the narration was great. It was awesome.
Like literally, I hear this is Audible. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh yeah,
Audible presents book 2.
Thomas the Train.
Great.
Sorry.
See, but
The king's gonna be like, is that the king or is that Sir Topham Hatt? What am I listening to?
Exactly.
Okay, but you're listening at a double speed, right?
True. That is true. So
Yeah.
it doesn't affect me as
Slow
much
it
as it
down
affects you.
to 1 times for just a little bit.
Okay, I will give that a
Hear what
shot.
I'm talking about.
I will give that a shot and see because I didn't get that. Like I just was like, okay, well it's but now I'm interested. Now I kind of want to see that's hilarious. What's funny is we're referring to it as I don't even want to say classic because technically he's classic as well. Because George Carlin was doing Thomas the Train for a long period of time.
So is Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
He kind of sounds Ringo Starr-ish.
Well, he's definitely not George. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'd listen to it with George Carlin.
oh my God, yes. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Have y'all ever looked up they take Thomas the Train when he's doing the narration and then they'll sprinkle in some of the stuff from his stand-up act?
Amazing.
Oh, it's hilarious. He's like, Thomas was very pissed. He looked at Percy and said, "Fuck you, motherfucker!" Like just because it's his voice and it flows and it's just it's so good. So anyway, I'll have to see if I can find that and share it. It's hilarious. Who haven't I asked about this yet? About the narrator? I think Jen, you're kind of the only one that hasn't jumped in on this one.
Well, I didn't listen to it. I read it.
Oh, you read it? Okay.
It was on Kindle for free, so
Okay, fair enough.
And I am intrigued now to hear.
Have flashbacks to PBS.
Times 1 time speed in order to hear what I'm hearing, and
I'll have to give that a shot. That's hilarious. Was there anything else anyone wanted to add about the book? Like I said, kind of going back originally, I was interested in possibly reading the second one now that I know it's a limited series. I think I'm definitely gonna have to queue up the next one. So, anyone else?
Yeah, the reason I originally picked it up was because I was looking for something different. I'd read a previous book of hers, and again, like her previous book was all over Book Talk. People were like, "It changed my life," or I'd like sell my firstborn to read this book again for the first time. And I'm like, okay, so and it was fine. It was interesting, but it wasn't like sad that it was over. I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. It was a big take on this story. It was interesting. So with this one, I'm like, hopefully it's sort of the same thing where I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. And then when it was in London at a certain time period, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna read this. I like magic and I like London, so can't screw that up too bad. But
yeah, I like the old timey magic stories set in the past.
Yeah. I love that. I'm a sucker for that. So I thought I just yeah, she's got a big catalog. I want to read all of her books, and it's a fun read. It's again quick,
Mhm.
pace, lots of stuff's happening. Good palate cleanser.
I'm trying to think, is there any book or book series that no, I wouldn't sell my first child to go back and re-experience it for the first time. And
Oh,
I'm thinking the first three Bobaverse books, Magic 2.0, at least the first book,
Yeah.
just because it was so awesome.
yeah.
Maybe
But
one of your cats, but not your child.
I don't know if I could give up my cats either. My fur babies. So, um, well, I guess that wraps up our conversation on that. We have already figured out we've figured out our reading list. Well, we've figured out the order for our reading list. We haven't figured out quite all of our books yet. I can tell you the next book for next month is Ray's pick, and it's what is it again? It's Lincoln
Get in the Bardo.
Lincoln in the Bardo. So
Ray's trying to make us all really depressed. Jesus, I read the synopsis and was like, cry the whole time.
Well, we had a palate cleanser. It's time to get deep again.
all
I
right.
haven't even read the synopsis yet. Now I'm kind of scared.
It's gonna be a 180 from what we just read. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
That might not be bad.
It's the sample of it and the reviews I read about it are what sucked me in. So it seemed intriguing as to the way it's being presented.
Okay. We will find out next month. With that said, let's move on to what else we've been reading. Kris?
So I'm reading two books right now. One is called The Quick, and I'm physically reading this one. It's by Lauren Owens, and it is set in the later half of the 19th century in London. Originally, the first chapter, I'm just like, oh, is this just some puttery little thing where no, it's about vampires. Like, wait a minute, that is not what the synopsis said. I was not prepared for this. I was prepared for a sister being like, my brother is missing. Let's go on a journey. And it's like, oh, first of all, it's about gay vampires. Second of all, it's a slow burn. It's like 500 and something pages. It's just like, I need to know now. It's not like epic or anything like that, but I'm so sucked into these characters. And it's an interesting take on the vampire myth. And this specific club in England, this very exclusive club in England, in London specifically, where there's only 52 members, and they're all fucking vampires, and it's really neat. And then the second book I'm listening to this one. It's The Hermit of Lammas Woods by Nathan Lowell. It's the third book of the Tanis Fairport series, and I love Tanis. I love her so much. She's so fucking cool. She's this she's 54 now, or 53, badass woman who travels around the country with learning about herbalism, because she escaped her abusive husband, and she
kicks ass.
She kicks ass, and now she's going through menopause. But what happens when a woman goes through menopause is she gets fucking magical powers. It's awesome.
Okay. Does it tie in at all to the Wizard's Butler or?
So no. So Nathan Lowell does write it. This is the book I was going to recommend, and then switched it because
this isn't his cup of tea.
But I did get Kris to read it because I was like, I thought it would be up her alley, and I was right.
It's so good. It's so good. So now I'm reading the last book, and it makes me happy.
Nice. Ray, what else you been reading?
So speaking of Nathan Lowell, I jumped on his website just to see some updates because I know he's not doing well health-wise. The good news is he seems to be turning it around a little bit. The man is 70, so
yeah.
Yeah. So the good news is there is another Ishmael book on the way, which I thought was really interesting, and he's also slowly but surely working on the Wizard's Cat. So I'm trying to hold back my excitement for that. But in order to do that, I'm listening to the Wizard's Butler again.
Fair enough. Last month was a book that I'd already written, so I actually had a couple of different. I had 2 months worth of credits, so I read 4 different things. The first one was the Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. It's read by Will Wheaton. I talked a little bit about it one of our previous episodes. He was supposed to be working on this really heavy, like giant, really complex book, and then COVID hit, and he got COVID and kind of fucked with his brain a little bit, and had anxiety, and literally for the first time in his life had to say, "I cannot finish this book. I can't even start this book," and like had to tell his editors and stuff. He's like, "I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm going to default on this contract," and then literally like with all that weight lifted off of him, this entire book came to him. He like wrote him the next day. He's like, "Yeah, but I'll have a completely different book for you in March." And um, it is. He even puts it. This is a pop song of a book. It's very light. It's fun. It does talk about some stuff. Like there is some people who die in the book or whatever, but it never gets heavy. It's energetic. It's fun. It's a cool idea. It's about a group of people that have a secret mission to protect kaiju that may or may not be on this planet. So, uh, if that sounds interesting to you, check it out. It's not a very long book either. Like you can kind of rip through it. And what's funny was when I finished, I was like, I'd be fine if I didn't get any more in this series. On the other hand, if he did say, "Hey, I'm going to go back to that world," I'll be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll right there with you, man." So, um, I did Ruination by Anthony Reynolds on Kris's recommendation. Um, I enjoyed it. Like I know nothing about that game or that world, but I did enjoy the book. I thought it was a fun book. Um, Empire of Imagination on Shaun's recommendation. Um, Man, that kind of a sad life. But
Yeah.
I will say something about that. The way that it was written for being an auto or not an autobiography, but for being a biography, it was very story like. Like
Yes.
it wasn't as dry. It was like he was telling the story of his life, not just like factual beats one after another. And I enjoyed it just for that, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But yeah, highly recommend that. And then the last one was Critical Mass by Daniel Suarez. Um, and like I said, we're gonna have to do some Daniel Suarez in this, in this club at some point. Um, I think this is only the second book that he's done a sequel to. And the first book I thought was just okay, and the second book has completely turned me around on the first book, um, to the point I think I'm about to read them back to back again. What's funny is in the other series he has that has a sequel, the first book starts off, it ends where it is an ending, but it leaves a lot of loose ends, and then the second book picks those up and goes through not just wrapping up the book, but the technology. All of his books are based on different technologies. Takes the technology and where it destroys the world essentially in the first book, it's like, well, this could actually be used to save the world in a different way. And the first one was about about a basically a virus that could destroy all the world economies and how it could leave things open for people to have a more manageable society and actually, work with the planet. And in this book, it's about mining in space and how the second book talks about how, well, if we were able to do this, yeah, we'd have to go through some crap to get there, but we could literally force this planet to clean up its act if you want to keep moving on with life and society. And I was just like, it's a good book. I like his writing. I like his writing style.
His writing is excellent.
The reader on it, there's a one guy that reads all of his books, Jeff Gerner. He does fantastic voice work. um so if you like Daniel Suarez, definitely check out the first one is Delta V, and then the second one is well, hell, I just said the name and I forgot what it was. Something Mass, Critical Mass.
Critical.
Those two books go together. Definitely check them out. So Shaun, you been reading anything else?
Nathan Lowell as well. I started the Shaman's Tales.
Oh, okay.
So, which takes place in the same world as Ishmael, but it's instead of gallivanting around planet to planet kind of thing and all that, this takes place on one planet in the oceans. They're fishing and all that, and it's got like some mysticism in it and stuff like that. Like it's Nathan Lowell. It's not heavy.
Right.
It is. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it or not, but like you get like the story of the Welkies and
Oh, okay.
kind of thing. Like, so no, so far I'm really enjoying it. So it's a 3-book series. So yeah, Nathan Lowell, that's my comfort food.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, he seems to do everything in threes, which is fine because I would not mind getting the Wizard's Cat and then whatever the third one's going to be. I'd
Yeah.
be completely happy to get those. So, Jen, you been reading anything else?
I am almost done reading a book for my next interview for Sustainably Geeky called Black Earth Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's by Leah Penniman, and she's one of the founders of Soulfire Farm, which is a regenerative farm in the Northeast, I think, that is basically teaching BIPOC people how to farm and live with the land and kind of just encouraging a better relationship with the environment, the land. And it's really good. It's one of those where she's interviewing a lot of different people, activists and um, leaders in this area, and she kind of has it themed by topic. So it's a little hard to follow on audio, but I opted for audio because of the quick turnaround. I didn't know if I'd get the book in time and everything. So, anyways, I'm enjoying it and excited about the conversation.
Nice.
Talk about it.
Well, that is our show for the month, ladies and gentlemen. If you would please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, wherever it is you listen or watch the show. You can find us at epicallygeeky.com, where you can find the rest of the shows we do, including the Epically Geeky Show, the Creatively Geeky Show, and Sustainably Geeky Show. We're not very active on most of the socials, but you can find us at Epically Geeky there as well. Where can we find you online, Kris?
All the shows you mentioned, and on Instagram at Moody Midlife.
Ray?
You can find me and my wife falling on our asses, or almost falling on our asses, on Instagram.
I actually did. Got a bruise on my butt.
The Reluctant Yeti on Instagram.
Shaun?
Screwing with Wikipedia as always, and your favorite broken toy on Instagram,
Spelled the Canadian way.
the Canadian way.
Jen?
Instagram and Twitter at Het's Gonna Be Me, and on Sustainably Geeky, and sometimes epically marginally geeky.
And this month you can find me on every single show because I just kind of made the rounds. And as always, you can find my individual wacky adventure online at Optimachine on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.